Good morning, and it's good to be back. I am so happy to be able to continue in our study in the book of Luke. It was great to get away for a weekend, but now we're going to continue. And again, it's that part of Jesus's life that it seems to be, we know that he has only hours left, and he knows that he only has a short amount of time, and he wants to make a final effort to speak to these men who are making these accusations, who have arrested him. So reading from the 22nd chapter of the book of Luke, verse 66 through to the end of verse 71. When day came, the assembly of the elders of the people gathered together, both chief priests and scribes, and they led him away to their council, and they said, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe, and if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man shall be seated at the right hand of the power of God." So they all said, "Are you the Son of God then?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." Then they said, "What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips." And may we continue to be blessed as we look at God's word. History is full of stories about individuals who were wrongly accused and convicted of crimes they did not commit. Many of them spent years, even decades in prison. Some died during their incarceration, only to be exonerated far too late. For some, their wrongful conviction even led to their inexcusable execution. Most of the wrongly convicted were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they were misidentified. Some were railroaded by a faulty judicial system or overeager police looking for an arrest, or an incompetent or lackadaisical lawyer who didn't care enough about his client to give them a proper defense. I could read off a list of the names of the innocent, and you would likely not recognize too many of them, if any at all. But there is a name we are all familiar with, one who was innocent, who was arrested, who was abused while in custody, who was tried without any legal representation, who was found guilty of a false accusation that was supported by tampered witnesses, and then who was summarily executed. Today we're going to look at the first trials that Jesus would go through in a period of less than 6 hours. Beginning with verse 66. And when day came, the Jewish soldiers, who were also the temple guards, were employees of the priests who worked at the temple. Well, they were the ones who arrested Jesus and who always did as they were told by the priests. And they have held Jesus in their custody in the courtyard of the high priest most of the night, waiting for the sun to rise, because it was against the oral law, those laws that were created by the religious elite. It was illegal for them to hold a trial during the evening. It was also illegal for the Sanhedrin to meet during the night. Now, the Sanhedrin was a group of Jewish elite made up of 71 members from high priestly families, Pharisees who were educated in the law, and then lay elders. Those were well-respected and influential Jewish men. This was the group that is referred to as the body of elders. In the Greek, they use the word presbyterion, from which we get our word Presbyterian. But it also included both chief priests and scribes. So it is quite a gathering of religious individuals. This next part where it says of the people, it does refer to who their people were, being the Jews, but it was more this sense telling us who these men had authority over, who they ruled. These religious elites were not guides, not leaders. They were not concerned about moving the Jewish people on a journey that would lead them into a closer relationship with God. No. These men loved the power they had, but it only extended to the Jewish people. As powerful as they saw themselves, they had no power over the Greeks or the Romans. So they had to make a show of their positions, flexing, as it were, their authoritative muscle whenever they could. Next in the verse, we are told that they were gathered together. Note, they didn't begin gathering at sunrise. They were all ready to go at sunrise. They were already assembled. They were chomping at the bit for a chance to deal with Jesus once and for all. Their plan was coming together nicely. But little did they know, so was God's plan, once and for all. The next verse says, and they led him, being Jesus, into their council. Again, the Greek word here is Sanhedrin, which is where we get the word Sanhedrin from. It's interesting to note that the Jewish ruling religious body chose a Gentile word, which refers to a sitting together. So that is what they did, and that is the word they chose as the name of their group. And there is this sense that they were perhaps moving towards having their authority recognized more closely by the Gentiles. Then their questioning began. And the questioning of Jesus by these men was akin to being badgered. They were all asking the same question at the same time, likely in a very aggressive manner. Now, it wasn't like the courtrooms of today, where a lawyer stands up and asks the accused a single question and waits while the accused answers. These men were saying, if you are the Christ, in Greek the word is Christos, in the Hebrew the word is Messiah. That means the anointed one. It refers to the Jewish people's long-awaited deliverer, the one who would be sent by God. So they said to Jesus, if you are the Christ, tell us. And it's not a single man saying it. They all are yelling this at him. Tell us, tell us, tell us. Now imagine 71 men all yelling at once, asking the same question, and they're not asking in unison. It's an absolute cacophony. It's a noise. Think of our parliamentary sittings, as embarrassing as it can be, when everyone is yelling at each other. And you get an idea what Jesus's trial before these men looked like. I'm not sure what they were expecting Jesus to say when they finally quieted down enough for him to answer, but the word "but" suggests that it wasn't what they expected. But he told them, if I should tell you, you would not believe. See, Jesus knew their hearts. He knew his trial was a setup. He knew if he admitted to being the anointed one sent by God, they'd have accused him of blasphemy. And if he had said he wasn't, they'd have accused him of being a false prophet or worse. Jesus knew what they were up to. Jesus also knew that they had no faith. If their hearts had been remotely interested in seeking God, God would have led them to Jesus, like he had Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea and so many others. These men weren't interested. Now, in Jesus' response, the Greek recording shows a double negative. And unlike English, where a double negative makes a positive, in the Greek it serves to emphasize the negative. No matter what Jesus said or did, there was no way they'd ever believe the truth. Not ever. Furthermore, Jesus said to them, and if I should ask you, you would not answer. And again, it's the double negative. No way, not ever. He's referring to the same question they asked him. In essence, Jesus is saying to them, you tell me, am I the Christ? Well, of course they would have remained silent. They would have had to. If they agreed that he was the Christ, they would have been guilty of blasphemy for their treatment of him. And if he said that he was not the Christ, then they would have had to release him, because that was why they brought him to trial. This is certainly not a conversation that the elders wanted to have with Jesus. They weren't there to have a discussion, and they certainly did not want to be made to acknowledge what they knew was the truth. They would not give up their power for Jesus. Jesus' next words revealed the truth. He says, but from now on and forever, the Son of Man, who was the firstborn of God in human form, will be sitting at the right hand of power of God. Jesus knew how his day would end. It was only a matter of time. And he knew he would be reunited with his Father in his kingdom for eternity. Jesus changed the situation in the room in an instant. It went from his humiliation to his exaltation. But they all said, and once again, they were all talking at the same time, each man trying to be heard over the other, each trying to extol their power. They said, then you are the Son of God? See, only a prince sits to the right of a king. So only the Son of God would be permitted to sit at God's right. Well, just the thought of Jesus making such a claim would have wound them up even more. They were mad to begin with. Now it's probably reaching a level of being furious that he would talk like that. It was one thing to claim to be the Messiah. See, their expectation was that God would anoint anyone to be their Messiah, but it would be somebody strong and powerful, someone from the line of David who had authority and riches, able to influence governments and bring about change. Jesus didn't fit the bill. Then he inferred that he was the Son of God. Picture veins puffing up in the foreheads of these religious leaders. This was infuriating. Now again, I'm not sure what answer they were expecting from Jesus, but he was saying to them, you say that I am. So they ask, so you're saying you're the Son of God? And Jesus says, you say that I am. Which is the truth. The reason Jesus was brought before them was because of the statements he had made and the things that he had done. They started this. They believed Jesus posed a threat to them, and they wanted him stopped. They wanted him dead. Jesus did nothing wrong. Now they said, what need have we any more of testimony? Well, what need indeed? Even the witnesses that they had brought in to testify against Jesus were lying. They were twisting his words and twisting his actions and saying things that were untrue. The leaders go on to say, for we ourselves have heard from the mouth of him. And they have. In a courtroom, we are called to tell the truth. And Jesus is only telling the truth. Everything he said in that room was true. They have heard no lies. They've heard him speak the truth. They don't want to believe the truth. Their hearts are not open to the truth. To believe Jesus would mean to give up the power they have to accept that the Messiah had come. In the beginning, I mentioned the individuals who were convicted and punished for something they didn't do. Well, here we have the first of 3 trials, and Jesus will be punished for something he did not do. And he will go to the cross, and he will do so solemnly, willingly, because it's for us. He knew what each one of us would benefit in his death. For we have found Jesus Christ. We are believers, and a place awaits us in his kingdom. Amen.